I think they may think that they're going to end up with a fine, and the total PR and the possibility of keeping Tfue is just greater than any possibility of having to go up against the Labor Commission. Hey, so we felt that this video needs some kind of intro. The current state of FaZe and where they're at seems to be a lot different from where we started. So there was recently a video that came up from The Score interviewing the CEO of FaZe, Lee Trink. And in the beginning of this whole thing, there was a possibility that Brian Friedman, who was Tfue's lawyer, was going to do two things, right? He was going to bring a case to the Labor Commission, and he was also going to file a lawsuit. Those are two separate things. So the lawsuit was going to was just going to probably be to get Tfue out of his contract and to kind of go over the unfairness practices. But the Labor Commission complaint was a bigger deal to me because that's something that we've been waiting for in esports for a really long time. The possibility that there is going to be the Labor Commission or someone in a governmental way that is going to look into the issues in esports. That there's a lot of this sort of, there's just a lot of like laws and stuff being broken. Just a lot of people that are running esports teams that are not running them above water and doing some pretty ridiculous stuff. And FaZe has been the highest, the highest offender of this, and employing 12-year-olds and doing a bunch of underage drinking in their houses allegedly, and it just goes on and on. And these everything, every safety thing in the book, and is it's just ridiculous. So, watching this interview, and you're going to see some of my comments on it in this video. Watching this interview with Lee Trink, I'm now unfortunately realizing that I think I never really put a lot of faith in the actual lawsuit to change anything. I thought that was just going to settle out of court. Looks like that's probably going to be the case. The bigger issue was going to be with the Labor Commission, that hopefully the Labor Commission would take a serious look at FaZe, and they would look at all of the stuff that's happening, which there's YouTube evidence of, right? Like, and they would take some action. It's now seeming like that may not be the case. There's still a chance that happens, but after hearing a lot of the news around this subject for the past couple of weeks, as well as the sheer confidence that Lee has, the CEO of CEO of FaZe, it's looking like he may know something that we don't about how to get around the Labor Commission, and it's possible that FaZe just takes a couple of fines and then keeps going. Overall, I guess I'm people that have been on my stream or watching YouTube just know that I'm pretty. The whole situation is just really, I don't know what word I would use. Unfortunate, I guess. I want to use a much stronger word, but it just really sucks to see the esports industry once again have people in it that are representing themselves as unprofessional. And I wish that there are esports teams out there that take ownership of these issues and that run above board, and they're great. But the ones that don't set a bad example for all of us, and make it more difficult for us to get brands and businesses to associate with us who care about their brand image. So I think there's been some commentary from FaZe Banks where he was on like this podcast and said like, there's a lot of people like me that are trying to make esports professional, but esports was always like about the gaming and like the authenticity of that. I think that's BS. Like, I think that like making esports professional doesn't have to take away from the authenticity of what a gamer is, right? Like we can be. I think gaming was always about coming together, no matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, gay, straight, black, white, whatever. It's that we can all sit down, play games, and enjoy that with each other. And it was a way to bring us all together. That's why. That's what I remember from being a gamer. Maybe it's a little bit different because he started on console gaming and I was on PC. So I remember games like Brood War, and I remember games like EverQuest and Dark Age of Camelot and all that stuff. And maybe he's playing Call of Duty on the Xbox. I imagine his experience of gaming was a lot different. Needless to say, I don't want a world where we where the way that we look at gaming is Xbox Live Chat in 2005. I think that's not a good plan. I think rather than that, we should aspire to be professionals, and we can do that in a way that still keeps everything authentic and keeps gamers gaming about gaming. I just don't think the way that FaZe is doing that is professional or representative of anything that I would consider to be an industry that I would want to be a part of. So unfortunately, they might get away with it, and I guess we'll just wait and see. At this point, there's still a chance that the Labor Commission could come in and they could fry these guys, and then after doing that, they could go look at the rest of esports teams and say, okay, like this needs some regulation. But government typically moves so slow on this kind of stuff. If anybody remembers online gambling, it took forever for them to realize that like online poker was a thing, and then just overnight they shut it down. So something similar will happen with esports, where we have that sort of reckoning, right? As more money comes in and more attention comes in, these laws and regulations will increase. But until then, there'll still be companies that are running below board and will get away with it. And maybe FaZe ends up being one of those and continues going on. We'll see. So enjoyed the commentary. If there's going to be more in this video, and please remember to subscribe or follow the YouTube and the Twitch chat stream, because put a lot of work into this stuff. So thank you guys, appreciate it. Doesn't Tfue have a hard-hitting legal team behind him? Do you think that FaZe should be a little bit afraid of his legal team because they're going for blood? You have to understand, executives that have this kind of track record are unbelievably calculative. They're so methodical in their risk assessment that they would factor in a lot of this stuff. So it's very possible that Lee did an assessment, right, where he was like, okay, this is what it's going to cost me to hold Tfue. This is what it's going to cost me to have to tank the Labor Commission fines. This is what it's going to cost me to have to deal with this legal team and settle out of court. And then all of that actually doesn't equate to the benefit that I get by increasing my valuation, increasing my public perception, etc. Right? The only X factor in this was probably Banks and screwing that up, but that was just kind of a PR nightmare that he could fix. I'm telling you right now that I think Bleatrink has all this calculated. You're not a COO running hundreds and hundreds of people if you don't have that stuff calculated. It's just that the problem that I have is it's hard for me to describe to you like how manipulative and calculative executives are at this level. I know this because I am very good. I'm extremely good at this, right? And this guy's a better executive than me. And if I had to fight myself, I would be really, really scared because I am super good at business. And I calculate this. I calculate risk assessments for my companies for months ahead, sometimes years. And I know everything that's going to happen. So if I know that and this guy's better than me, then I'm betting on him calculating this. Also, he has a background in law in the place where he has to fight the law. So look, I'm not trying to say that it's right that he gets away with it, or that it's even or whatever. Like, obviously, FaZe has signed a player to a horrible contract. That it is totally unfair. They're doing really bad business practices and they're acting in bad faith. I'm telling you all that right now. I was telling you it might not matter because look, in the 2000s, what happened with the banks, right? Like, what happened with the banks that literally signed subprime mortgage loans that screwed over tens of thousands of Americans, and they got paid for it. Like, life doesn't always work out to do the right moral thing. In fact, unfortunately, it often doesn't. So, like, do I wish that this went to court and that that esports was represented properly and that we actually had legal precedent? Like, I wish that was the case. Now I'm not so sure. Like, a lot of my previous videos and a lot of my previous assessments were based on the fact that I thought FaZe was run by just a bunch of kids. I didn't know they had a player like this on there. That changes everything. This dude hid in the shadows until, like, the end. You get someone that's this good, they can get you out of stuff like this. And what's funny, too, is that the public perception seems to be swaying in FaZe's favor as well. And if, like, the one thing that I said that I thought that Lee was right on was I thought he was right on, like, the idea of, like, maybe Brian Friedman is just okay with just getting Tfue a huge settlement and then dropping the case. And FaZe goes, okay, whatever. Like, because look at FaZe's options right now. They can go to court and they have to pay maybe a few $1 million to Tfue, and then which dwarfs the amount of money and valuation that they got as a result of him being on there, right? And then they settle out. And then they keep doing all these bullshit contracts, so they've got all the clout from that. I mean, or what? Like, they get paid because they get to transfer someone else, some other esports organization buys them, which is never going to happen, right? So I still say that Tfue will 100% walk out of his contract. Or even worse than that, I think what will happen, what's very likely to happen, is that Tfue will get paid and then leave his contract. So what will happen is there'll be an out-of-court settlement, most likely. FaZe will have to pay some amount of money to Tfue. Tfue will get out of his contract. Why would public sentiment be shifting in favor of FaZe? Because their PR is better. Because they have dudes like this that are doing their PR, where if you listen to him, it seems to make sense. And people start to think that FaZe is in the right. Whereas like Tfue is not talking as much, and Tfue doesn't have like the same PR team that FaZe does. So like you look at what FaZe is doing, right? Like Banks is going on these podcasts, and like the CEO is like talking about this on the news. And like, what's Tfue doing right now? Like Tfue's just not saying anything. He's just kind of hanging out. And then he makes like a 2-minute video, and he kind of like, it's like kind of like unprofessional with like him holding a webcam. Like, dude, it's not gonna lead up to these guys. No one's gonna, the real story is gonna get buried under the rug. Doesn't matter what Cloakzy says. Cloakzy's a kid. You need like real people representing this, dude. Like Cloakzy and Tfue are right? But they're just not professionals. When a dude like this goes on the score and talks about this, everyone's gonna believe what he says, even if it's all bullshit.